They don't respect old people like they used to.
I don't want to hear nothing from no old head.
We learned to work for what we wanted. They didn't just hand us nothing and give it to us. We grew up poor.
They ain't got nothing. What do they have? What did they build?
Whether we was right, whether our parents was right or wrong, you did not talk back.
The rebellion is due to opposition of what was before them, and what was before them was unable to provide.
Young people have no right to be angry at the older generation.
And that's what humanity itself is generally supposed to have, is inheritance, from generation to generation.
They need to pull their pants up, get a job, or go to school.
We can't just keep starting over every single generation, being the first out of our family to do, so-and-so and so-and-so.
Somewhere along the way, you got to pick yourself up to say that, hey, I got to build a life for myself.
Every generation can't imagine what it's like to grow up in the particular conditions that the other generation grew up in.
You have a people that their experience is more relevant to this age, whereas again you have another group that has experiences more relevant to, say, the 80s.
In a generational sense, there's always some tension between dads and their sons, especially when their dads have some kind of idea of what things should be going on.
When somebody try to help them, they jerk back and do something else.
Because you're messing up, and this cat, wants you to do another thing, but you're steady on this course, and you get this, so you gotta kind of, I'm gonna really be a man when I challenge this dude.
You old, you ain't no good, you get out of here, you don't make sense no more.
But in a generational sense, you have to, you have to be bad, you have to sneak out the house, you have to do all of those little things in order to grow up.
They just has no respect at times, and that's not all of the youth, that's not all of them. It's just some of them.
They don't go to church no more. They don't do a lot of things that old people grew up doing.
We don't sit down to the table together and eat, anymore, and pray and talk about the day, what went on.
Old people are quiet with young people because they think the young people are going to scream and holler at them. Some of them just might slap them.
If it's okay to use a bunch of foul language and do all of this other stuff in front of elders and older people, what else is next?
The older generation say, you guys really need to wake up. And they're like, what do you mean wake up?
This older generation feels like the young people are not equipped to lead.
Yeah, but you don't realize what you're going through is going to be happening again, and what's happening to you now.
And, whether baby boomers like it or not, you are retiring and you're gonna die soon. So you have to learn how, and I'm sorry, but you have to pass that on to the next generation.
When we fail to understand our history, we're doomed to repeat it. And so when I see this conflict, I'm basically trying to say, you need to be aware. This is not new, it's somewhat old, it's been renewed. And so if you don't understand what I went through, you might not fully be able to deal with what you're going to have to go through.
The old generation thinks the way that we're living right now is always going to be that way.
They seem to be chasing some rainbow that doesn't exist.
Whereas the new generation is proof that it's not going to be that way.
The older generation is complacent with how far they've come.
They don't realize the seriousness of things going on in this country, and how we have black leaders that paved the way for us, that fought and died for us to have freedom and liberty in certain things.
Yeah, we got equal rights through the civil rights movement, and this, and that happened.
The young generation should look back and grab the old people's hand and say, let's go, let's do this. Thank you for looking out for us.
Look at what we did back in our time. We're good. You guys don't have anything to worry about because we did it all for you. And that's not true. And we're seeing that that's not true. And it's not getting passed on to us because our parents were taught to be complacent.
The previous generation, they lived through the 60s and 70s, which is more of a enhanced version of what we're seeing today.
We have the option to either pick up where our grandparents left off, or to be complacent like our parents and be existing, just fine with where we are.
The American society has a fetishization for youth. That youth is all that's valued.
But later on, you begin to see the value of listening to the people who got our culture.
Those older people have gone through trial and error. They've seen their attempts begin to succeed and run into obstacles, or they've seen what they tried to do and what failed, so they can offer some advice. I look at those people as not as old heads, but as elders.
So I ultimately think that the divide is not useful. There are ways in which both generations dismiss each other.
In order for me to succeed in my fight and my battle that I'm going through, I need to garner some of that wisdom, so I'm not just starting from scratch.
Older generation and older heads have excellent insight. Like, they know what's already happened, they know what works and what doesn't, and they were really there.
We lose a lot of strategy, a lot of experience by dismissing and isolating younger people from older people.
I think it's a tool and a tactic of division.
That's sad when a child can't open up and talk to his own parent, or talk to the police, or talk to some kind of figure that's going to be able to help them, or either talk some situations out. That's sad that they don't trust.
The millennials, like every generation, will someday be in charge of the institutions.
And it takes us to be involved instead of sitting back on the outside looking and judging the kids.
We could be so much more effective if we try to combine the different strengths and energies and knowledge of both generations in order to affect the future, because ultimately that's what we have to work with. And if we dismiss one or the other, we're cutting out power and possibility, knowledge, experience, and energy. And we need everybody that we can get to do this, because it's just a blink of the eye since slavery.